Early on, I think people were a little bit more open to doing risky things before there was a clear regulatory structure, which, like, frankly, still, not to, talk shit about the regulators. I think our regulation here is, like, in some ways very good, in some ways it's very, like, it just doesn't help. We don't have derivatives in Canada. Like, it's insane. It's 2025. Jenny Mikhalchenko. I help run BD at Dura Labs, which is the labs entity to PYTH. Okay, we enable builders to build applications on chain. I help to deploy our primary products to new protocols. BD is like so many different things to so many different people, but basically two things I work on, right? So when new chains launch, one of the primitives that they need is oracles in order to provide pricing data for, let's say, bar lending protocols, perp dexes, AMMs, like in other projects to be able to use that data to kind of spin up their protocols, right? So we're like a very important, base level primitive for any protocol that's trying to launch, right? Obviously, we're not the only oracle out there. There's a whole number of competitors, but what we do very well. We work very, very closely with a lot of new projects that are coming to market, typically pre-TGE, pre-testnet, pre-mainnet, and we'll work with them to deploy kind of the full set of price feeds to their networks. And then that enables and kind of helps their builders to start, kind of putting their projects together. Essentially, the first, kind of bucket is deploying, the oracles to L1s and L2s. And then the second bucket, which is one of the new projects I was telling you about, Express Relay. It's an on-chain, kind of RFQ on Solana. We currently power Camino, Titan, and Jupiter, and we have a bunch of other applications in the pipeline. And really the problem we're trying to solve there is to bring off-chain liquidity through our network of market makers on-chain to help with better pricing and execution. Banks don't bank Canadian crypto companies. They still don't touch it with like a 10-foot pole. Back when I was at the TSX, we were so excited because we had BMO as like our primary bank for corporate banking, like very basic, right? And we're like, yeah, this is great. This is really gonna push the space forward. It's gonna like force other banks to like start doing business with the space, and like even with all the clear regulations and all this time that's passed, like no one can get a bank account, or very few people can, right? So, there's a lot of like systemic limitations that are very problematic still. So once a company or project reaches a certain level of maturity, you have to be competitive in terms of like being able to pay people. Like the ingredients are here, right? I think great people, great ecosystem, like people have ideas, people are trying shit. But I think there's a lot of like localized thinking here where like I feel like in other places I've been, it feels more global. As far as future narratives, I do think this whole IBRL, Internet Capital Markets bit that you mentioned, I think it's very sticky. And it sounds very like esoteric and like hand waving, like what does that even mean? But I think people kind of intuit what it actually means at a subconscious level. So there's no need to explain it too much. People are just trying to build, useful applications, high throughput, low latency, on chain. Like it's that simple, right? And there's a lot of things that fall into those categories. There's a lot of verticals you can kind of expand into out of all that. And you're gonna see us everywhere.